Welcome to StockInvest.us podcast. We remind you that trading involves a high risk of losing money, and that you should speak with a financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. You should not base your investment decision upon StockInvest.us. By using the information provided, you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions.
Hi, welcome to StockInvest.us podcast for week 41. Yes, it's week 41, and I can promise you that the next few weeks are going to be very interesting indeed. My name is Jim. I'm going to guide you through this stock podcast. For the next 30-40 minutes, we are going to talk about the markets, what we expect the market will do for the week ahead of us. We'll look into some of the major stocks, Apple, Microsoft, GameStop, Tesla. Also look into Dogecoin and Bitcoin. Last week I told you I thought Bitcoin could go as high as 55,000, but ending at Friday 52,000. Well, the results are in. Bitcoin did better than that. It's ended Friday on 54,000, but right now trading at 56,000. So we've been very correct about the direction of Bitcoin, where it will head, and shortly you will know what I think for the week ahead of us. Will it continue upwards or go downwards? I will give you my best advice. We will look into possible trading candidates for the week. And by the very end of the podcast, I will, as usual, have a quick look into the portfolio we've been following since Christmas. And last week, I told you I thought it would be a sideways movement for the week. And if you look at the numbers, Nasdaq ending the week at 14,579 points. Only moving 12 points up from the week before. So 0.8% was the gain for Nasdaq. Indeed, really nothing. But the week was quite volatile. It started on Monday and continued all week. Dow Jones still a little bit better, ending the week at 34,746 points, up 1.22%. And last week I told you you had to pay attention to the job numbers, which were expected on Friday. And they did, just as expected, disappoint. They came in much lower than what the market expected. But will this affect the forthcoming week? I don't think so, because I already think that the market has accumulated this news. I don't think it will affect the market for the week ahead of us. So what is it that we will have to pay attention to this week? Well, I like to look at it from two angles, the technical angle and the fundamental angle. And let's just start at the technical angle. If we look at the chart is now telling us that the Nasdaq is in the lower end of a slightly rising trend. Lots and lots of resistance above. I told you this. If it breaks down to 14,200, which was the bottom scenario last week, things will start to get very bad. Right now there is tons of resistance above. All the way from 14,000 to 15,000, and even if it passes 50,000, it will still continue to have resistance all the way up to 15,400. First, when it breaks 15,400, things will start to look good. If you look at the volume is slowly going down. There is less and less interest in the market. There is a buy signals from the short-term moving average, but the sell signal from the long-term moving average, and in the relation between these two, there is a death cross. And this indicates to me, given the fact that there is so much resistance above, there are some support below where the market is right now at 14,400 and 14,200. So I don't see this week to be very bad, but neither very good. I think that the 14,400 support will hold, that the market will move somewhere sideways between 14,400, 14,800. But when we get to 14,800, it might show this topping signal and a brutal forthcoming fall after that. Will that be next week or the week after? I'm not sure, but everything in the chart indicates that we are in a very hard territory. We know that America is going to push billions and trillions into the market, and this may help the market in such. But when Morgan Stanley and others say that we have to embrace for a 10 to maybe 20% fall ahead of us, well, everything indicates that that is highly likely to happen. There is not that very scary scenario. That will be when it breaks below 14,200, because if that happens, it should fall straight down to 12,500. But we just look 1 week ahead, coming from a very low RSI position. I don't think that it will happen. I think that the market will move sideways between 14,400, 14,800, not being very interesting. Some volatility, of course, that could give a good room if you are a trader. If you look at the signals that we registered, we analyze more than 34,000 tickers across the world. And right now, 25% of them are giving buy signal. It's neither high, it's neither low, it's on a slightly rising trend, which indicates to me as well that the situation should be stable at least this week. At Nasdaq, it's only 21% buy signals. The tech stocks are under some pressure. New York Stock Exchange, 31% buy signals, and London is at 21% buy signals. And if we go just across the river to Frankfurt, we will see 29% buy signals. So what does this indicate? Well, markets are still very low, and when they are low, things can go very bad very fast. But at the same time, they are slowly increasing. Like Frankfurt went from 23 to 29% buy signals. New York Stock Exchange from 26 to 31% buy signals. So we see these indicators that some parts are doing better. So there is not that one-sided road where everything goes in one classic direction. If we go to Asia, we can see that Tokyo only got 25% buy signals, while Shenzhen in China have 30% buy signals. It's been stable for both of them lately. So the technical pictures, looking purely at it, it's somewhat the same, indicating a sideways movement. But what about the fundamental things that we have to watch out for? As I said last week, you have to pay attention to the works numbers. So what are the numbers this week? Well, I told you the treasury yield would go up, and it's really going up. It's at 1.6 right now, up from 1.46 last week. And I think that the treasury yield will just continue to grow because inflation is going up. And I told you this over and over again to the boring in this podcast. And we are not finished with inflation by any means. Oil is already at 82%, on the way to 100, up $5 from last week. So oil continue up. Everything that is made out of oil products will, of course, continue to grow. And what about inflation? Well, this week on Wednesday, you will have the consumer price index numbers. So we will know exactly what happened in September. The consensus is that the numbers will go up by 0.3%, that inflation for September would be 0.3%. I think that will be way too low. I would guess on 0.6, actually the double. For 12 months, they expect the inflation to be 5.3%, nothing scary. But if you look around and you look at everything that has happened, even your own food prices when you go to the shop, you can see everywhere is rising, and this number has to come in. The other thing that will come in this week is, of course, the labor cost, and labor cost is also going up. There is, to some degree, shortage of people, for sure, qualified people, and this pushes salaries up. So inflation numbers on Wednesday will be very determining for the market, and even if they come in very bad, it could be the one thing that accelerates markets closer and faster into what everyone expects, a major fall pretty soon. If the numbers come in on consensus on 0.3 or even better, well, that could be the one thing that pushing the market up. And when markets are like they are now, they can suddenly start to move very nicely in one direction, and you can have 3 very strong green days where markets gain 4, maybe even 5%, just to have that dreadful red 3% down by the end of the period. So more volatility to be expected. I was dead certain gold would change, that it will go up last week. Well, it's totally unchanged. It started the week at $1,753, ending the week at $753. Gold is considered safe haven. As I said, the target for Christmas is 2,000, and by 1 year I expect gold to be at 2,500. I think we will see money fluctuating into gold. And money is changing in the market. We can tell that by the volume. The general liquidity in the market is going away from stocks and over to more secure bonds. Also typical when people expect huge changes or they see inflation being too high. Usually you see that money goes out of stock market into more secure items. And to end what we believe about the week ahead of us, now a lot of Q results will be coming, and this is very interesting because people will keep Argus eyes on these things to look for weakness and strength in these numbers. And this week, especially the banks are coming. JP Morgan is coming, Goldman Sachs is coming, Morgan Stanley is coming with numbers. So you will have a fair idea about what is moving and what's been the result for the past 3 months. So what kind of direction is the profit levels going, labor cost, and etc. etc. So and these Q numbers will push the individual stocks. So that's one thing. If you're a trader, you want to sit in a stock where you have to some degrees control over what is happening. And when the Q result is being posted, usually that push stocks in either direction. And sometimes if you don't pay attention and you don't know that your company, your traded company will push Q results, you can have that thing where the stock suddenly falls 7%. You don't understand exactly why, and it turns out it was just Q results number being published below expectations, or in the other case above expectations. So make that a good thing. A small little lesson here in the beginning of the podcast. Check the tickers that you're trading. When are they releasing their Q results? You can find at our page, StockInvest.us. You will find the Q results, and you can also see how the stock behaved before in previous Q results. Did it go up prior to the Q results? What happened after Q results? You can go for those stocks where we have this kind of data. You will find this information. We'll give you a slight idea about what to expect, the kind of reaction after or before Q results. And just ending that part, sometimes even if the Q results are extremely good, you will see stock fall. That has happened to Aapl a few times. It's simply because everything was already discounted into the price, so there were no surprises, and then people move away for the stock for a little while. And talking about Aapl, that brings us to the very first analysis, and we usually do it in this order: Aapl, Microsoft, Tesla, GameStop, and head to Bitcoin and Dogecoin. Last week I told you I thought Aapl will end the week at $144. I was $1.10 short of the target. It ended a little less than that, $142.90. But if we go and check the chart, we can see that Aapl is more or less the same like Nasdaq, struggling a little bit. Such a huge resistance above, especially around $146 and $148. So going up on falling volume, that's divergence. You don't want that kind of situation. The relative strength index is slightly moving upward. Same thing like Nasdaq. There is a buy signal from the short-term moving average, but a sell signal from the long-term moving average. That indicates to me, with the support below and you have the resistance above, that you can expect also a sideways movement from Aapl. There is nothing very special. I think that the bottom for the week will be $139, and the maximum on a very, very good day could push upwards to $146. And if it managed to push above 146 and things start to look very good, well, their next resistance will be at 148.49. There is nothing in the chart indicating that Aapl anytime soon will get back to previous high, which was at 156.69. Right now it's struggling big time. The trend is changing actually in the 3-month chart. It is now gone from a rising to a fall, a slightly falling trend, not properly falling yet, but everything is indicating that the top and the fun is over in Aapl. I've been waiting to make that call to say that things really are over, but I think that I can make that one now. because right now there is nothing indicating, everything is getting more and more confirmed that we will head into a downwards trend. But by the end of next week, we will see. We have to put a weekly target. Where will Aapl end on Friday? And right now, I think the following scenario is the most likely one, that it will move sideways. It will maybe fall all the way to 139, but it should also push upwards to 145, maybe 146 high. But ending the week, my guess is it will end somewhere very close to where it is today. So yet another sideways movement for the week ahead of us. And I just have to push a guess. And I actually be slightly positive and say that I believe Aapl will end the week at 145. But come again, this is just for this week. Everything is weakening in the picture. There is more down than there is up. The reason why I put 145 is simply because I just have to put a number so you can measure how good I am or how bad I am in my analysis. But for sure, there is a high chance that the Aapl will fall down to 139. If it breaks 139, that will be very bad. Then we will hit 135 instantly. But as I said, there is nothing in the chart right now indicating that will happen. And what about Microsoft? Well, Microsoft did a little bit better, pushing upwards, but we see the same tendencies in Microsoft. Like I said, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 podcasts ago, Microsoft would likely do better than Aapl. And Microsoft is doing better than Aapl. It still remains in a rising trend. Everything is indicating that it might continue for some time more. As a buy signal from the shorter moving average, the same thing like Aapl and the Nasdaq. There's a general sell signal, or a dead cross as we call it, from the relation between these two signals. Volume is going in the opposite direction. It's this divergence. Volume is the price is going up, the volume is going down. You don't want to see that. But on the other hand, this makes me believe that Microsoft should have a reaction back maybe early this week. But with good support at 290, later 285, I don't find that enough to make that really huge scare. I find it very likely that Microsoft within the very first few days will go down to 290. Could go as low as 287 for the week. But with such good support around 287, I think that will be the thing. But contrary to Aapl, I think Microsoft will end the week lower than where it is today, trading at 294.85. I think that Microsoft, as I said, might have a fall all the way down to 287 for sure. 290 early in the week might move a little bit sideways, but by the end of the week, I think that it will be somewhere around $290. So we reduce the target for Microsoft and stick to 290. And that brings us further into Tesla. Tesla is a much harder stock, but as I said, I think that we are getting to the very top of Tesla. And I said last week that it could go as high as 800, but I expected it to end Friday at $775. For the Tesla trader is good news. It ended 785, so I was $10 off the target for Tesla. But I have been for weeks and weeks correct about the general direction. It's a very nice strong trend, and it hit the upper part of the trend, 800, now falling down, total natural reaction. The thing is, it's getting overbought on the relative strength index. This can result in two things. If the market is good, Tesla will continue to push upwards and can even go all the way to 900 in one insane rally. That has happened before in Tesla. It's not very likely. It's a slight end scenario. Volume following the stock nicely indicates that this is a huge chance. Usually Tesla is doing good while being overbought and usually lasts for a week or two. And as I said, it is heading into overbought relative strength index now. Good support at 780, later at 760 indicates to me that it will not fall by any means below 760. Then it has to be some extremely bad market or very special Tesla news. There is a very high chance, very high likelihood that the stock will move between 780 and 830 for the week ahead of us, which means yet another good week for Tesla ahead. But it should also be the last week where Tesla is moving upwards, in my opinion. If it falls below 780, it will struggle, because then 780, that support, will turn out to be resistance, and we should see the same topping signals as we see in Microsoft and Aapl. But I do not expect that to happen. I don't think it's fairly likely as is. Given the previous history of Tesla, given the fact that the volume is following the stock, it fell on Friday. The stock fell on Friday. I think that it will pick up somewhere around 780. An intraday trade swing around 760 should be a possible very good buy if you're able to pick that low, with the expectation that it push higher than 800. So for the week as such, I will be bold, and I think Tesla will be higher than it is today. I think that it might go up to 810, 820, and everything indicating it will push up to 900, but I'm not sure that it will be for sure, not this week. So I think maximum 830 high, but by the end of the week it will be very close to the 800 mark. So that will be the target for this week, actually, Tesla hitting 800. And as I told you, I said when Tesla was 560, just buy Tesla, because it will go to either 800 or 900. And I keep my stop loss right now. This is where I will exit my, I would call, very, very good Tesla trade. It's getting to the place where I think everything will turn. Right now, the technical analysis is saying more or less the same. You have to remember that Tesla been at these levels and higher before. So I think that we will see this double top kind of scenario. GameStop, I said last week, I believe GameStop would end at 185, but it fell more than that. It ended at $172. And GameStop is, of course, quite hard to predict. But if you look at the stock, I like what I see. I see a stock that has bottomed. It got all the way down to relative strength index at 15, extremely low. And last time this happened, the stock had a nice rebound. There is simply no volume at all. Nobody seems to care about GameStop. It's also a good thing. It's getting very close to the bottom of the trend at 160. It has support at 170 right now. And I think it's a fair chance that GameStop will be a good buy for the week ahead of us. First signal will be increase in volume. And just to get a little ahead of schedule, because after these few analyses, I will tell you the trading of the week. And I can already tell you that GameStop will be one of the candidates that I personally will try to pick up, in the anticipation that because there is hardly any resistance until 190, later 200, there is a very good trading opportunity in GameStop as is. Of course, comes with a high risk. So you have to pay a little attention. But I will gamble on the relative strength index being extremely low. Found a pivot bottom both in relative strength index and price. Good signals for me. Volume will be the first indicator to push up. For the end of the week, I'm not sure. Could go in a very nice run all the way up to 190. I don't think it will go any higher than that. Could then fall a little bit back. So by the end of the week, I expect GameStop more or less the same like I had target I had last week, to be somewhere between 180, 185. And we can just keep the same target we had last week and say that it will be 185 for GameStop. That, my friends, brings us to Bitcoin. And I know many of you are listening just to get these Bitcoin analysis. And what do we think Bitcoin will do this week? Well, I told you everything looks so good in the Bitcoin chart, and has a buy signals from the short-term moving average, the long-term moving average, and Nasdaq, Microsoft, Apple, we remember, had a death cross. Well, Bitcoin has what we call a golden cross. So everything is indicating that the Bitcoin should continue upwards. Right now, it should face some problems around 55, 56, simply because that is high volume is also getting slightly higher. Relative strength index is getting overbought. But with extreme support around 50,000, I think that is the most likely movement. Could during the week fall down to 50,000 just to pick up. At the same time, with very little resistance above 55, could just go straight to 60. Being overbought, the same thing is. But I expect for the week, huge volatility, anywhere between 50 and 60,000 being the high. And the question is, where will Bitcoin end on Friday, and what does these things mean for the long run? With this very, very strong support at 50,000, everything is indicating that Bitcoin will go to 75,000. I will argue this in later podcast exactly why. But the trend is very good. Right now it's in the top of the trend, and as you know, my friends, that indicate that we usually should move downwards either to the middle or to the bottom. And if it turns in the middle, and in this case 50,000 will be around the middle of the trend, and with that heavy support, if it falls to the middle of the trend, which is kind of natural, and then turn up, you can just expect stronger gains. I think we are in that scenario where we'll head back to the 50s and then push upwards. Of course, it can just be upwards from here on. So we are on a very, what I would call a very positive scenario. Especially remembering that we said that from 30,000 that now it's time just to get in, because this will just go up. For the week as such, we have to try to find exactly where will it end on Friday. So you have to make some sort of qualified guess for the next 5 days. Well, I think that for the next 5 days, Bitcoin will continue to push a little up before it takes a natural correction down. Last week I have a target of 52,000, and I think it will be higher this week. But not sure it will be very much higher, so I'll actually stick to $53,000 for the Bitcoin. You cannot read my lips, but if you could, you would see that I'm trying to tell you in a very nice way that Bitcoin most likely will just continue upwards. It's just for the week ahead of us. I expect a more sideways movement. A little bit up, then a little bit down, ending at 53,000. But in general, everything is looking very good. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And Dogecoin, what about Dogecoin? Well, Dogecoin is behind Bitcoin, not able to get that same lift as Bitcoin had lately. And I see that in a few other cryptos. And in general, this just means that the other cryptos will have a buying opportunity. And if you look at the chart at Dogecoin, I follow Dogecoin simply because I bought 2 times at 20, saying that this will just go up. I said last week, just buy for whatever you can, because it was around 20 then, and by Friday it ended at 24,000. Right now trading around the same thing, 24 cents. And if you look at Dogecoin, I like what I see. Volume was following the Dogecoin up from 20 to 25 cents and falling from almost 26, falling down to 23, 24. Volume also fell. Very, very good sign and good support where it is. Not the best, of course. I think that it will be a very good week for Dogecoin. So where Bitcoin will maybe fall a little bit for the week as such, I believe Dogecoin will go either sideways or up. And I'm more certain about that than Bitcoin. I will keep a target for the Dogecoin for 26, and I think that for the next few weeks we will see very nice numbers in Dogecoin coming. All, of course, with risk included. And when we get back to 30 cents, which I think will happen very shortly, I will most likely just either reduce a little bit, because then I will be in 35% profits. I might reduce, then I will be at 50% profit, so I might reduce my exposure a little bit. We will see. Because if markets go very, very down, the stock markets, if they get into a crash, I always used to do very good trades when markets are red, simply because I am very patient. And very restricted, I will just wait for when markets is totally overreacting and then just buy. Usually that happens after 2-3 days of very heavy fall. You will have that fourth very nice green day. So I will go in on day 2 or 3 and buy and sell on the green day and do these short trade profits. But that will be for another week. So what about the week ahead of us? For trading tips. Last week, our stock opened with Nevro, Excel Energy, and KDIS. But on Monday, Nevro opened. It was a bad day on the stock markets, and Nevro opened down. And my stop loss was cut in. So Nevro is sold. It was bought at 122.45, sold at 118.50 with a loss of 3.23%. So that is the third trade which goes very bad. Just to give a quick recap, we sold Nvido almost 14% profit. We sold Rocco with almost 6% profit. We sold Coin with 2.3% profit. Zynga with 0.23% profit. AMC with 22% profit. And Moderna with 8, almost 9% profit. We had to cut SQ with a loss 3.77. We had to cut KDIS with a loss 4.45, and last week Nevro with a loss of 3.23. And this is the one lesson: cut your losses early, because that's the name of the game. We want to increase our gains, reduce our losses. So if you got what I said, if you heard what I said, all my losses, because you will have losses, you just won't be more than 50% correct. You heard that my losses were cut around 4%, 3 to 4.5%. My losses were cut, and that's where I take the loss. While my gains were up, and some AMC at 22%, for instance, and Nvidia at almost 14%. But my losses were cut at 3 to 4%. If you manage to do this, you will see your portfolio grow, and never expect to be correct all the time. So what about the week ahead of us? Well, Excel was not closed last week. It gained a little bit. It's up 1.22% as it is. And KDIS is still there, simply because I like what I see in KDIS is 6.9. And last week was a very horizontal move week. It was not a week for very good trades. So I kept these two positions, Excel and KDIS, open, so they are still open. And as I just said, this week I will get into KDIS. As soon as markets open, I will try to get in early. Could be I will try a pre-trade. We will see. But I will try to get into GameStop at the lowest possible price today, with the expectation that I will be able to do a short and nice trade where GameStop possibly, in my opinion, could give a 10% yield upwards to 200. I will be very satisfied if I get the 5% as well. So these are the open trading tips for this week: Excel Energy, KDIS, and GameStop. There are many more, but right now I don't want to go more heavy into the markets, because the markets are not as good as they want, so the risk continue to increase. This is the part where I keep reducing my exposure in the market. And that brings us to the very, very end of this podcast. We're already 33 minutes in. And in the end of the podcast, I usually tell you a little bit about the portfolio that we used to follow. It's a high-risk portfolio. Last week was not the best week for the fusion. It's still slow and moving, and there is, well, they are heading into Q results soon as well. So I think we might see some movement in the fusion. If not this week, I think it will be next week. NEO just a little bit up. I think it was 50 cents from the week before, trading at 35.83, but happy with what I see in NEO right now. And I think it's a good week for electric cars. Hence, look back to the Tesla analysis. Petrogeo Service, well, it went up just as expected, 443. I have my trading desk for Norwegian stocks open as we speak, and it's just continuing upwards. So with oil price going up, PGS is going up, even though it was downgraded by this analyst company, as we said last week. But I thought that was one of these typical things that you often see from trading houses. When some major investors want in, they pump some bad news. and then they just flip their analysis when their clients bought whatever they need to buy. So I think that will happen in PGS, but PGS being very good so far, and I think more to come. Arbutus did not have a very good week, ending at 394. And we lost energy, no trades at all. That's the name of the game of these high-risk pink stocks. No changes. Not sure it was even a trade at all. And that happens when the market goes sideways and get illiquid. These stocks get totally dead. Exigam a little bit up, 5% or something like that last week. In general, the portfolio did not move very much at all. It was down 0.66%, so a little bit less than Nasdaq in total, but just what to expect. I think it will be a much better this week will be much better than last week in terms of the stock in this portfolio. And that's the end. Usually I give a trading tip or two, what to look for. And for this podcast, I will just try to help you understand how you can trade on volume. Usually you want this very, very simple rule. Volume should follow the stock price. If the stock is going up, the volume should be going up, and the same thing is going down. And that's what I said in a few of these stocks analysis. I don't like when there is a divergence. I like when there is volume following stock. It's more predictable. But if a stock is falling very hard, that is exactly what you want. Then you want a divergence. This is a bit more advanced trading. It's a bit more scary. You can do this when markets are very red or the stock is very red, trying to do bottom fishing or reaction when the stocks have a natural reaction up. So if you have a stock which is falling very hard and suddenly by the very end of the fall you see volume increasing very much, that is what we technical analysts consider a buying signal. It means that the stock is bottoming up. The last people is throwing their cards. So in general, the idea, let the volume follow the price. But for trading purposes, if you are looking for short-term candidates and you're just doing day trading and even just swing trades for a few minutes or even an hour, that is what then you trade actually for divergence. You look for stocks where you have this divergence, either for putting your calls or your puts, depends if you're doing calls or puts or if you're just trading in general. And that could be for trading view stations or whatever kind of station you use for your trading. I hope you will have an amazing week. In just a few hours I'll jump on the plane flying to Bergen, Norway, and I really look forward to see my family and have a few nice weeks in Norway as the fall is here. But I will be back next Monday. You can bet on that with my stock tips for the week. May not be as good sound quality because I have a little different gear. Then I have to do it manually. Have a nice week. Enjoy it, and hopefully your week will be green. Your portfolio will grow, and we will speak in just a week. Bye.